inviting me here. Thank you, Denise, for that lovely introduction. I'm reading my speech because it's a story. I'm the Chief Executive of Islington Play Association, a charity, as Denise said, that's been in Islington for over 40 years, fighting for children's rights to play. I've come to talk to you about how I got here and what I've learnt along the way. I'm really excited to be part of this conference and to talk about the heritage of Islington women making a difference for children and their families. I hope you had time to look outside at some of the banners and exhibition materials that we've put up. They'll be there at lunchtime as well. We're trying to show you that women in Islington have always fought to make a difference and have helped create the borough that we're currently in. I was actually born on Liverpool Road, and I've always lived in walking distance of here, pretty much, meaning that I've been here in Islington for over 40 years. 3 years ago, I decided to make a massive change, expand my horizons, meet different people, and I moved to Brighton. Islington by the Sea is what they call it. So I was born and grew up around about here, and I still work here because Islington Play Association's Paradise Park Children's Centre is on the corner of Liverpool Road. By the age of 12, I realised that I was pretty much as grown up as I was going to get. I knew then, as I know now, you're responsible for your own life and the way you respond to what happens in it. In every adult, I tried to see the child that they were, dependent on the caregivers around them, struggling to work out who they are and what stuff means. And in every child, I see the potential 12-year-old adult they can become. My career has been completely influenced by my own early experiences and beliefs. I've worked in Islington and Hackney in children's charities for over 15 years, and I've been lucky. I've always been fascinated by children and what makes you resilient and able as an adult, and why some people find things much more difficult than others. My belief is that the freedom to be you and the freedom to choose how you respond to your life makes you who you are. The moments in the day, that's me by the way. The moments in the day when you are totally immersed and fulfilled by what is actually happening, when external worries recede, that sense of rightness where arbitrary and restrictive rules fall away and everything seems possible. I think that's what freedom is. I think that's what play is. I think it changes you. Here's a quote. When you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. That is a quote by Patanjali, an Indian teacher often called the father of yoga, and for me, that's about play. Living in a home where my father was affected by drugs and mental health issues enveloped me as a child in a sense of fear, of nightmares and ghosts, monsters seen in every pile of clothes, something under the bed ready to grasp my ankle when I went to bed, and a really evil witch who lived in the toilet. She'd whoosh up and try to grab me when I pulled the chain. Living with someone addicted to drugs means you can never tell whether they'll be the kindest, most loving and gentle parent, ready with hot cinnamon toast when you get home from school, or a screaming, raging bear foaming at the mouth. I learned that I wanted to depend on myself, not on others, and that has given me the drive to get to where I am today. I started to go to the adventure playground on my own at about age 7. It was a place where I was responsible for myself. I could do as much or as little as I liked. Different children would be there on different days. There were games with other children in the hut, exciting structures and swings, and quiet places where I could sit and imagine. I remember spending hours writing messages on leaves with a feather. You can see here how much I loved it. Children just never pose, do they? At my playground we had a massive scary tower with a rope swing, and I've tried to draw it for you. This picture is not necessarily accurate, except that it shows you accurately how scary I thought it was. I was not brave enough to go on it. Children used to border each other, and then that means jumping more people than one on the rope, for anyone who hasn't been to Adventure Playground. Children used to border each other and then jump off onto the net that you can see there. They also used to regularly bounce off that net and fall on the floor. There were broken bones. I thought it would be embarrassing if I couldn't do it properly, so I didn't do it at all. One night I was at the playground. It was bonfire night, so it was really dark, and the bonfire was on the other side of the playground. I went to the tower and stood looking at the rope swing. I stood for a long time in the dark, contemplating the situation. I knew I wasn't supposed to do it when no one was there. But I also knew it would be less embarrassing to fall and break my arms and legs without an audience. There was also the problem of how to do it alone, as you needed someone to throw the rope up. I went to the hut and found some string. I tied it round the rope swing and then laboriously climbed up the tower in the dark. I stood at the top of the tower looking out onto the blackness, holding the rope in both hands. My heart was racing, a bit like now. My mouth was dry. I jumped. Over 30 years later, I can feel the swoosh of the air in my hair and the total elation I felt in my achievement. I was flying. No one was watching, no one was judging or worrying, no one was telling me to be careful or listing all the bad things that could result from what I was doing. No one shouted, "You're going to hurt yourself!" I was a champion borderer after that, and I learned that pushing yourself to do things that scare you can be the most wonderful, intoxicating feeling, and I've pushed myself ever since. When I was 11, I went to Camden School for Girls. This was a defining moment in my life. I reinvented myself. My primary school had not gone very well. I was called a packy and was bullied. I was pushed down the stairs. It made me quite ill, and I missed a lot of my final year there. Then I went to Camden School, and something inside, a deep, resilient, determined part of me, the part of me that could fly, decided that it was going to be different. I was going to be 12, after all. This is a picture of girls at Camden School for Girls. This is actually from 1882, which is a bit before I went there. It's very serious, that school. Camden School opened at Sandal Road in 1871, 100 years before I was born. In 1864, before Frances Mary Buss opened her school, the worries that men had about the new school were described like this. There might rise up before the affronted fancy visions of what are derisively called strong-minded women. Disputations, browbeating, troubled with a determination of words to the mouth, loud and harsh in voice, arrogant in temper, dogmatic, self-willed, unconventional, undomestic, impatient of the matrimonial yoke as a badge of slavery, and with perhaps a leaning to waste. None of that came true, obviously. I remember my introduction day at Camden. All the teachers sat in the canteen area that had floor-to-ceiling glass windows looking out over a green slope at the front of the school. You were meant to go with your parents and meet your teachers. It all seemed very posh, very English. I had been reading Malory Towers. My dad said he was going with me. When we got there, he said he hadn't meant he would go with me. He meant that he would lie on the glassy slope and smoke a joint. I went in alone, and I introduced myself to each teacher, paying particular attention to the Latin teachers. If they were surprised to see me alone, they were too polite to mention it. When I got to about the third subject tutor, I became aware that there was some commotion outside. There were some snippets of grown-ups' conversation. Smoking dope. Who is that man? What shall we do? I ignored this completely. I carried on with my mission to come over as a keen and serious student. I was vaguely aware, out of the corner of my eye, of my dad being ejected from the school premises with his joints still lit. I didn't falter, and me and my dad didn't mention it again. My dad died in 2012. I don't think about him making my life difficult. I know he was doing what he felt he could do, and I'm grateful to him for always making sure that I could play. It was my dad who took me to the Adventure Playground from a very early age, with the outcome that a small mixed-race girl learned the freedom of play, learned how to explore, develop, test herself, communicate, interact, and became a kick-ass pool hustler. None of the big boys ever thought that a little Indian girl was going to beat them at pool. But I earned a good supply of sweets that way. Without my Adventure Playground, my miserable early school experience might have been the main thing, but I had a whole other life. Camden School for Girls also taught me that women are actually better than men at nearly everything. The teachers there were all totally sure that the girls were going to change the world. After school I went to uni. It was called then the University of North London. It is now called London Met, and yet you guessed it, it's in Islington on Holloway Road. I studied English and film because all I really liked doing was reading and watching movies, so that seemed like a good choice. I actually did one of my essays about Rocky. The university was opened in 1896 with a mission to promote the industrial skill, general knowledge, health and well-being of young men and women. When I was there in 1994, the Students' Union, protesting about the cutting of courses that weren't economically viable, called a sit-in. So we sat in. The police used to come and try and get us to leave. I was doing my finals, so I was really involved in occupying the building as I was actually trying to do my finals. But it was really exciting and empowering to be part of that. Now I'm older, a few multiples of 12 actually, I still believe in the freedom and power that Adventure Playgrounds can give you. In 2011, Islington Play Association, the charity that I'm CEO of, was successful in getting the land that the Islington Adventure Playgrounds are on, land worth a lot of money, protected for children's play in perpetuity. This means that the children of Islington will always have those spaces to play, explore, develop, learn, meet each other, try things out, and have the freedom to find out who they are and what they're capable of. And I'm really proud of my part of making that happen. Since I have been 12, I have learned the importance of finding out who you are, learning how to manage the life you've been given. I've learned how important it is to do things that seem scary, and the amazing feeling of doing things you thought you couldn't do. I know the importance of free play for children, and maybe especially children living in challenging circumstances. I believe that people are not perfect, but they do the best they can do, and that includes me. So how did I get here? Well, when my first daughter was born, I got involved in playgroups, nurseries and services for children in Islington. I worked where I was and used my ability to fight to argue for children's experiences and rights. And I worked my way up from a volunteer mum at a playgroup to the CEO of Islington Play Association. I know it is very important that children get time to be themselves without the cares and concerns of their everyday lives, and that's why I do what I do. Protecting these amazing spaces to give children a chance to play drives me each and every day. I also know that women are able to change the world. We can feel deeply, understand complexity, forgive and care for others, and achieve amazing things that the system says can't be done. I'm proud to have been asked to come here, and I'm proud to be a woman. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will all fulfil the potential that is inside you and make a difference to your community, and especially for the children.